This year, Marvel introduced two super powerful villains who got taken down by the power of love, since there was no way the main characters could beat them in a straight-up fight. But Sentry's defeat was one of the best scenes in Thunderbolts. It was emotional, satisfying, and kind of therapeutic. Red Hulk's defeat, on the other hand, felt like lazy writing, and a lot of fans think they totally wasted the character. But isn't it basically the same scene? Yet, one was widely praised, while the other was heavily criticized. Today, I'll break down the 3 reasons why. But first, if you're into Sentry and Red Hulk, you probably like your action loud, messy, and a little over the top. Which means War Thunder is right up your alley, minus the superpowers, but with way more explosions. War Thunder is a free-to-play military action game, built for people who think too much firepower is a myth. You'll take control of hundreds of different vehicles across land, air, and sea. Dominate the skies like Iron Man. Smash through enemy lines in a tank like Ross's crew chasing the Hulk. Use attack drones like Angstrom Levy. Or go full supervillain with a devastating nuclear strike that can destroy the entire map. Explosions in this game hit with real weight thanks to realistic physics and graphics. And every single vehicle is also fully customizable. Upgrade your weapons and trick out your rides with custom skins, decals, and visuals to make every tank, jet, or ship feel uniquely yours. Like if Tony Stark built tanks instead of suits. In the new Hornet's Sting update, top-tier vehicles like the Su-30 and the FA-18 have joined the fight. Think of them as the high-tech heavy hitters, the kind of machines you'd expect Nick Fury to call in when things get messy. Maps have been visually overhauled, with enhanced graphics and sound design that make every battlefield feel more immersive and intense. And naval combat has been reworked to be more dynamic, putting you right in the thick of the action. You can download War Thunder for free on PC, PlayStation, or Xbox using the link in the description below. All new players, and those who haven't played War Thunder for half a year or more, receive 100,000 Silver Lions, a unique Eagle of Valor decorator, and a bunch of bonus gear. And for mobile chaos on the go, War Thunder Mobile is now available on iOS and Android. Boom, boom, boom! The first reason one scene worked and the other didn't is the themes in each movie and the tone they chose to go with. I know this might sound a little abstract, but think of it this way. We all expect Doomsday to end with a massive multiverse battle. We're gonna be super disappointed if that doesn't happen, because it's supposed to be an action-packed adventure with tons of cameos. If the third act is just Dr. Doom and Loki having a chat about their weekend plans, people are gonna burn the theater to the ground. In the same way, the director of Thunderbolts never made us expect the movie would end with a huge, super-powered fight where Bucky smashes Sentry's face in. He set us up for an emotional ending with deep character development, kind of like the original ending of Evangelion. Even though the trailers made it seem like a Suicide Squad ripoff, Thunderbolts dives into mental health right from the very first scene. We see Yelena jumping off a building while saying she doesn't see any meaning in her life. John Walker acts like the perfect soldier, but his family's left him. Red Guardian wants to relive his glory days and feels like he needs other people's approval to feel whole. And while they're in Valentina's vault, Bob says he's just holding everyone back and would rather sacrifice himself than be a burden. These characters are lost. They feel empty and alone. That's why the Void is the perfect villain for the Thunderbolts, because it represents all their fears. It traps them inside their worst nightmares so they feel like crap for all eternity. In that context, it makes complete sense that the Void isn't taken down by punches, because he's not the kind of villain you can beat by dropping a building on him. There's no point in Bob punching the Void in the face or locking him up. What he needs is to grow as a person and leave his past behind so he can move forward. That's why we see the Void getting stronger with every hit, absorbing his other half. The key for Bob to get through all that trauma is sharing the burden with others and realizing his life matters, that he's not a burden to anyone. He has to accept he's not alone. That's why he stops when Yelena hugs him. I know this might sound a bit cheesy, but it works because they've become more than just a team of anti-heroes. Just like the Guardians, they've become a family. Toretto would be proud of them. If these themes hadn't been touched on at all, and they'd only been shoved in during the final fight with the Void, people would have started throwing popcorn at the screen. We'd all be asking for a refund because it would have felt like a total ripoff. It'd be like the writers made a character that was way too powerful and had no clue how to beat him. But since the whole story is about character growth and how they become better people, the Void's defeat feels satisfying. With Red Hulk, it's a whole different story. Brave New World is all about spies, betrayals, and carefully planned political moves. You could even call it a revenge story, since the leader's main goal isn't world domination. He wants to ruin Ross's reputation because of how he treated him. He doesn't even care about going to jail in the end, as long as he can take down the general in public. But at no point do they explore emotional or psychological themes like in Thunderbolts. The characters don't even go through any real development. Sam already accepted that he needs to be Captain America back in Falcon and the Winter Soldier, and Ross doesn't grow at all during the whole movie. That's not necessarily a problem when you're telling a good story, but you can't just wrap up a political conspiracy plot with a cheesy speech about love and friendship and expect people to walk out of the theater happy. It would have made way more sense if the ending had some strong political weight, like the final battle in Winter Soldier. We literally see S.H.I.E.L.D. falling apart because it had been infiltrated by Hydra.
Those were the days.
To be fair, Sam's speech doesn't come out of nowhere. Back in Winter Soldier, we learned that he used to counsel people dealing with PTSD, so he knows how to talk to folks and help them calm down. It'd be super cringe if Thor gave Ross a motivational speech. But given Sam's background, it makes sense he'd rather talk things out than have Red Hulk kick his ass. The problem is none of that was actually set up in the movie. Sam never used his way with words to get out of any tough spots before the final battle, and there was no emotional development for General Ross. All we saw was him getting mad when things didn't go his way, and that's it. It's not like Sam taught him how to manage his anger in this scene. If Brave New World had been about learning to control your anger, then sure, a little therapy session to calm down Red Hulk could have worked really well. That scene might have been just as satisfying as the Thunderbolts hugging, but that's not what happened.
Disappointed!
The second reason is that one of the characters got nerfed and the other one didn't. The biggest fear we had ever since Marvel announced Sentry would be the villain in Thunderbolts was that they'd tone him down. There was no way this group of anti-heroes could beat him in a fight. Honestly, not even the current Avengers lineup could take down comic book Sentry. Maybe Thor or Captain Marvel could give him a bit of a challenge, but still. There was just no way Yelena and the gang would last more than half a second against this guy. I had already come to terms with the idea that they might lower his power level so they could trap him somehow, or that they were gonna block his powers. That would have been a total waste, but let's be real. Marvel's done stuff like that before, just to avoid having an overpowered character in this shared universe. But luckily, they didn't nerf Sentry. He has the same powers as in the comics. He moves at super speed, has telekinesis, can tank almost any hit, and his strength is way beyond any super soldier. At the beginning of the movie, they even say he has the power of 1,000,000 exploding suns. And when he turns into the Void, we see him trap people in a dark dimension, just like in the comics. They haven't mentioned yet that Bob's evil side is actually a separate entity that entered his body when he got his powers. But overall, it's a really solid adaptation, especially when it comes to his power level.
Good job.
We got to see Sentry in action, crushing the Thunderbolts like they were mosquitoes, and we also saw the Void swallowing up New York. By the time we got to this battle inside Bob's mind, I was already more than satisfied with what I'd seen from Sentry. I also knew there was no way this bunch of misfits could take on the Void head on, so it was easy to accept that they beat him with the power of love. But if they had nerfed Sentry just so the Thunderbolts could take him down in a typical Marvel-style final fight, I would have been super disappointed. The whole point of the character is that he's super powerful, but if they were gonna nerf him, then they might as well have just used some other character. Too bad they actually did nerf Red Hulk a bit. In the comics, he can lift at least 100 tons and has gone toe-to-toe with Green Hulk and a bunch of other heavy hitters, like Thor and Juggernaut. Captain America would stand zero chance against Ross, especially without the super soldier serum. Even with a Hulkbuster suit, it'd be tough to hold Red Hulk back. And in the final battle, Sam was just wearing a Wakandan suit, basically a Black Panther-style outfit. But since they couldn't kill off the new Captain America in his first solo movie, they made it so Red Hulk couldn't overpower Sam. Right before the emotional speech, the fight's pretty much a stalemate, and in the original version, it was even worse. According to the folks who saw the test screenings, Sam was supposed to injure Red Hulk with his vibranium wings. Ross was gonna hit the ground, and he wouldn't get back up. The wound was supposed to be so bad that Red Ross would die.
Red Ross!
The funeral we saw in the teasers, the one that didn't make it into the theatrical cut, was supposed to be for Ross. His daughter Betty showed up in that scene to pay her respects to her late dad. But since people didn't like that Marvel wasted Red Hulk like that, they decided to reshoot that whole section, so Ross would get back up, and Sam could convince him to surrender. That's why this shot looks faker than your ex pretending she's over you. The VFX team didn't have time to finish the scene properly because they filmed it just weeks before Brave New World hit theaters. It could have been way worse, but they still nerfed Red Hulk. Also, Red Ross was a big part of the movie's promo. He's in almost every poster and popped up in all the teasers, like he was going to be as important as Sentry was in Thunderbolts. But Ross in Hulk mode only gets 3 minutes of screen time. I know that because I clipped all his scenes while prepping this video, and it's literally just 3 minutes.
That's it?
It makes sense that people felt let down. We didn't get a Red Hulk as powerful as in the comics, he got taken down way too easily, and on top of that, he barely shows up, unlike Sentry and the Void, who actually got decent screen time. But if I still haven't convinced you, there's one more reason. The most important one, the bond between the characters in each movie. For the power of love to actually work, we need to feel connected to the characters on screen, and we also have to believe that they have a real connection with each other. Otherwise, it just feels like a cheap soap opera. In Thunderbolts, the person who calms Bob down isn't some stranger. The one who convinces him to let go of the Void is Yelena, someone he had built a real connection with. Maybe it doesn't seem like much, since those two had fewer interactions than a typical Tinder match. But you have to remember, Bob's had a horrible life. When he's trapped in the void, we see that his dad used to beat him and his mom, and that his mom blamed him for all of it. Growing up with abuse, Bob ended up with almost zero self-confidence. He always felt alone, not good enough, and ended up becoming an addict. From what we know, the only person who's ever shown him any real care in his entire life was Yelena. Back when they were at Valentina's vault, she saved him and actually looked out for him. Even when Bob tried to push her away, saying everyone would be better off without him, she stuck around. That's when he started to bond with her. So when the void hurts Yelena, we see Bob getting super angry. He reacts to her pain because he truly cares about her.
The woman I've loved since before I even liked girls.
Sure, when Valentina's guys capture Bob, she also acts all warm and nice to him. Elaine read his file and knows exactly what to say. She tells him he's misunderstood and that she sees value in him because she knows that's what'll win him over. And Bob falls for it at first, but he quickly figures out that Valentina's just manipulating him. That's why Yelena is the only one he truly connects with, because she's the only one who never tried to use him. So it makes perfect sense that she'd be the one to help him let go of his dark side and not give in to the void. But in Brave New World, we don't get any of that. Sam and Ross have a cold, distant relationship. They don't get along at all. They're just tolerating each other because the country needs them to. So why would Ross suddenly listen to Sam in a moment of weakness after disagreeing with him the whole movie? It's not like they're old friends who had a big disagreement but still have some deeper bond. And they're not family either, so there's no emotional connection to give Sam's speech any real impact. There's no trust between them, unlike Bob and Yelena. Sam convincing Ross is like if Melissa, Valentina's assistant, had snapped Bob out of it. Maybe Mel would have made a good point, but there's no relationship there to justify the change in Bob's mindset.
I don't even know who you are.
It would have been a totally different story if Betty Ross had shown up in this scene and convinced her dad to turn back to normal. That would have been a great callback to The Incredible Hulk, where she was the one keeping Bruce calm. It would have made way more sense emotionally to see Ross break down in front of his daughter. But for that to actually feel earned and not like some last-minute twist, Betty would have needed a real role in the rest of the movie, just like in The Incredible Hulk. In Brave New World, she's only mentioned twice before the third act, and Ross has one quick phone call with her, where we don't even see her face. They only reunite at the very end, when Ross is already in prison and everything's wrapped up. It would have been way more satisfying if Betty had been confronting her dad throughout the movie. Maybe she could have spoken out against his run for president, or clashed with him over his conflict with Captain America. Then they could have reconciled in the final scene in that cherry blossom field, when Ross remembers that he loves his daughter, and is willing to give everything up for her. Don't forget that when Ross turns human again, he accepts losing the presidency and spending the rest of his life in prison. He's got to do it for a good reason, not just because some guy he hates told him to, especially when they've been arguing the whole movie. Of course, if they'd gone that route, there was a chance people wouldn't like it either, since it would mean Sam doesn't actually do much to stop Red Hulk. Instead, Betty would be the one to resolve the conflict. But at least Ross's defeat would have felt true to his character, and it would have mirrored the Thunderbolts scene pretty well. But hey, at least Marvel made a solid choice recasting Red Ross so they could tell this story, right? We answer that in this video over here.
Red Ross!